Welcome to the International Coaching Week 2026, an initiative by the ICF Saudi Arabia chapter. Our vision is to be the leading catalyst for excellence in coaching and personal development in Saudi Arabia. We aim to empower individuals and organizations to realize their full potential and achieve sustainable growth through coaching. Our mission is to advance the art, science, and practice of professional coaching in Saudi Arabia. We do this by providing high-quality education, fostering a strong community of skilled coaches, promoting ethical standards, and creating opportunities for growth and collaboration. Here is the ICF Saudi Arabia Chapter Board, dedicated to achieving our vision and mission.
Hello and welcome everyone to our 10th session webinar event in the International Coaching Week with ICF Saudi Arabia. So as you saw in the on our last video, so we have a vision to become the leading catalyst for excellence in coaching and personal development in Saudi Arabia. And of course, our mission is to advance the coaching profession, whether the art and science of it in Saudi Arabia for both individuals and organizations. And at the board today, we would like to welcome everyone here in the session today. And we're looking forward to such a great session moving forward. And from the board, it would be me with you, Rachel Ajuz. I'm the Vice President of the ICF Saudi chapter. And of course, I also welcome you and hope that you'd enjoy our session today. And a little bit of house rules. So please keep your microphone muted at all times. Have the questions in the chat box. And if you want to receive your CCE certificate, please have your name shown in the participant section as the name that you registered using the event link. And without further ado, let's start our session today. So AI. AI is a hot topic. And as for us coaches, we're always wondering, what's this all about? You know, what are the tools? Where can we find those tools? And when can we use them and how? And there's always the part of the black area and the white area, ethically, I mean. So, and are there any gray areas that we can play with AI? So that's why our topic today is AI coaching. Where are we and where are we going? And for today, we would have Olivier Malafronte. He has a PhD in coaching, in AI coaching and leadership development, and is also the co-founder of Magif.ai. And before giving him the mic, or maybe I can give you the mic as well, Olivier, and let's discuss this. This was a quote like a couple of days ago. We just were thinking about something to share with you guys. And then we used AI to figure how we can put it forward. So before giving the mic to Olivier, I would like to ask you, what do you think of this? How do you feel when you see this picture? What are some words that pops to your mind? Please share in the chat. Okay. So yeah, I see that Rosanna says some of the coaching competencies. Ray say we can quickly generate all sorts of content, human interaction. I found myself searching for mistakes from AI. Oh, really? Okay, such a perfectionist. But we resonate with it all. Okay. So Olivier, would you like to share a little bit about this?
Yeah, I was going to ask. So this picture, is quite funny and it resonates a lot with me because it's a great way to introduce myself because I always said I fell down coaching when I was kid, and this maybe actually will speak to other people because my dad was a coach and a trainer and a consultant, and he became a coach, and my uncle was a psychotherapist and a psychologist. And both my dad and my uncle used to work together. They've been running their consulting company for more than 30 years. And so since I was a kid, when I was a kid, I wanted to build technology. But I was, at home, I was hearing my dad and my uncle speaking about getting people around shared goals and values, gestalt, transactional analysis, training, alignments, competencies, right? So, so this picture is actually summarizing, quite well, when I was kid. So I was dreaming about building technology, but I got the virus from a family background, and this picture defines me a little bit. So it's quite funny to see that. So maybe now it's going to give other feelings to people because they understand my story.
Ah, yes, indeed. And it's such a heartwarming thing to see that coaching started with you since you were a kid, and now you're into AI coaching.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, and I can tell more now if I you want me to share the
Of
screen, and
course.
yeah,
Yes,
let's go
please.
into that.
Yes.
So people will
Yes.
understand. I think I will introduce myself before, just to continue on this little story. So thank you very much, Rasha and the team for this picture. So who am I and why I do what I'm doing, the AI coaching? So I think I will start with this slide first. Like you understood from the picture, I fell down when I was kid, from the family background. And so instead of going to engineering, I knew since I was kid that I was going to be an entrepreneur, creating technologies. But I had this kind of like family things, aspirations and challenges to really, help people grow. And so once I got into my first coaching training, so that was in 2015, 2014, 2015. So that was, 12 years ago. So I started coaching at age 23 or 25. So, that was kind of I felt that when I was kid. I knew since my business studies, I knew I was going to get a diploma in psychology. But instead of getting that diploma in psychology, I got into my first coaching training in 2014. And as I was already the digital and tech entrepreneur, I was looking, hearing the AI topics. When I understood how coaching worked and when I understood the impact of coaching on people, I had this kind of big light. I had this aha moment, as we call that. It was a visceral call, and so I understood right away that my mission and what I really wanted to do, most in the world, was to actually democratize coaching knowledge with the help of AI. And my goal was to, like I just said, democratizing coaching, but also to enabling, people to develop competencies and make sure that AI could empower people. So that these are really the values and the goals that animate me. And I just want to come back to the slide here just to for you to understand maybe the background. So I got my first coaching certification in 2015. I've launched the first AI coach on the market in 2016. So that was very, very early. I was a starting entrepreneur. I was, that was the beginning of my career. That AI coach was named Pocket Confidant AI. And then right after that, as a second project, what I did during COVID, I went back to university actually to start my PhD that I defended last year. So I did 4 or 5 years of PhD. And in 2020, while I was going back to school, I started to work with ICF Global, and I've been co-writing the first AI coaching standard. I will show you the slide later. It's publicly available and for free on the ICF website. Then in 2021, I went back to school again, but this time in a new school of coaching to get another level of training that was more for team and organization coach. In 2023, I've launched a second AI coaching company in the United States. And then I defended last year, 2025, my PhD in AI coaching and leadership development. And in the same time, I've been launching the current AI coaching platform that I'm managing today, which is magif.ai. And yeah, in 2026, so this year, I continued my work with ICF, and I've joined the AI Coaching Coalition in Europe, which is actually this coalition reports not only to ICF, but also to EMCC and IC. So this is my background, and we're going to start this presentation right away with some use cases and market trends. And then I would like to present you the scientific research for AI coaching, which is, I think, the most interesting. So there are different use cases for the coaches, but also for the coaches. And it's quite interesting because maybe, the coach, I'm pretty sure most of you have been using AI already for your practice. And what we have to know is that coaches, our clients, they also use AI, and they're also using AI sometimes, before us as well, right? Um, so the use cases for coach, for instance, can be to use AI to help ourselves, our coaching business for the marketing and the sales. We can use AI to create content, to automate the sales process. But we can also use AI to help ourselves, coaches, to prepare for the next meetings, right? Or to do some simulations. For instance, we could be a novice coach. We could be in the training and learning how to coach. And potentially we don't know how to do a group coaching, or we don't know how to do, a specific type of coaching. So AI here brings us a valuable tool because we can ask an AI, for instance, to play the role or to help us prepare for a specific use case. The meta positioning session, this is something that I do sometimes, and some of my colleagues do it as well. I use my platform to create an AI coaching agent. And I use this AI coaching agent that is created with my coach knowledge to start the session with my client, for instance. And so I leave the first 15, 20 minutes. And so I observe, I'm in a meta position, and I let my client use the AI coach agent. And then after 15, 20 minutes, then we stop and we debrief together to see what emerges. And then we start the coaching session. It's quite interesting. As a coach, we can also do the self-supervision or get feedback. This little typo in feedback, but yeah, it's feedback because we're not going to see a supervisor after each coaching session. That would be time consuming and very expensive at the end of the year. So AI today is also giving us the opportunity to self-supervise. So for instance, if we record the coaching session with our clients with the consent, and then we make it anonymized, with no confidential information, no personal information, we can, for instance, use these transcripts with an AI agent to actually get feedback on what do we do that is good and where can we improve, right? So it's a good exercise for reflexivity and supervision. And obviously, like in the Zoom today, we can use notes taking or transcript, analysis tools, which is useful, and we can do some research and suggestions. So for coaches, it's more or less the same. They can use on their own when they are not with us. Today what they are doing, they are using AI maybe to prepare for some meetings, to get the topics, to frame some goals, to do some research, create some ideas. But what they can also do with AI is doing useful follow-up, after coaching sessions, for instance, or they can practice some of the protocols. So it means that they can also develop with more autonomy, and they can reinforce some of the coaching practice, that they see with us coaches in the session. But I'm going to give you more information in the next slide. So this is just to kind of introduce what are the potential different use cases that can be available to coaches and to coaches. So these are some tools. So you can screenshot the slide. There are multiple information. I won't be able to cite all the different tools, but basically, if we look at the different tools, AI tools that existed on the market, we have three main categories. We have the purple category on the left. AI can help us to write content, generate images, generate videos. AI can help us in the middle in yellow. AI can help us analyze and synthesize. And if we look at the blue one on the right, AI can help us to create agents and do a part of the coaching administration. So for instance, for writing images, or to create content, writing content, or to create images and videos, we have here different solutions. For instance, Synthedia, HeyGen, that is pretty known. VO3 is from Google. And of course, we can use ChatGPT, we can use Claude Copilot to generate some of its content. If we come back to the middle in yellow, we can use, like, now in the Zoom today, we have very specific solutions that are quite efficient to help us analyze, transcribe, analyze the contents, and create synthesis. So for instance, Fireflies, Read, or Otter, Raynote are a very efficient tool to get the content, content from calls, for instance, and then to give us back some analysis that will be helpful for us coaches to improve our practice. Ovida, for instance, is very specific to coaching, can actually take the video, can listen to us coaches and to our coaches, and then provide us some analysis. And then if we move to the blue one, agents and administration, here, it's more about, as a coach, being able to create my own agents. So for instance, you may have tried the custom GPTs already. A custom GPT, you can create your own agents, you can provide documentation, instructions, and you can tell the AI what you want the AI agents to be achieving, for instance, in your coaching session. And then with the link, you can share this with your clients, with your coachee, so that your clients can use AI with the agents that you created, right? So creating your own agent means that you can create a specific coaching protocol, you can create a coaching tool, a specific type of direction or interaction. But we will see later, right, the drawback of using LLMs directly is that all confidential information or all private information, the personal information, emails, names, stay on the platform. So it's why we have many different specific solutions like Magify, the solution that I've created, but also others like CoachBot, Delenta. And these solutions also enable to add extra layers of ethics so that the personal information, names, emails, do not, for instance, stay on the platform when we clients, we coaches have an interaction with an AI, but they're actually separated and treated in a different way. Here, for instance, this is more for what exists on the market, and these, the next two slides are about future trends, right? So, for instance, this is just for an exercise of reflection. So here, for instance, this picture is the website of Delphi Video. It's a solution that enables to make the avatar of yourself. So you can actually have an avatar. You can provide the video, the image of yourself. You can train an AI to look like exactly like you, to speak like you with the tone of your voice, and to deliver some content. So here, for instance, right now, you see me on the Zoom now doing this presentation. This could totally be an avatar from Delphi, for instance, right? But it's the real human person. It's me in person. But today we can use these kind of avatars, and we can also use, goggles or eyeglasses for augmented reality and virtual reality. And so these two trends, right? This one with the avatar, and then this one with augmented reality and virtual reality. Why, even though they exist today, I'm sharing this with you as a future trend reflection because step by step, we can think that tomorrow, AI coaching tools, AI coaching knowledge, or coaching knowledge, coaching tools, coaching processes, coaching questions, for instance, coaching techniques will be available through the hardwares and through the tools that we're seeing now. So it means that people will be able to have some, let's say, self-coaching exercises or access to coaching knowledge from different perspectives, right? So here, for instance, with augmented reality and virtual reality, we can imagine in the future that people will be able to have a full immersion in a coaching exercise, especially for visualization, for instance, or to imagine ourselves in a new context like public speaking. So it means that technology is going to help our clients to do better and better experiences. It's not yet the case, but we're getting there. Right. So now
So,
I will move. Yeah, you want to make it?
Olivia,
Yeah.
yes, please. So there's a question in the chat, and I think it's relevant to the first part before getting into the next part. Would it be okay to take that one?
Yeah, sure. For Mark, uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
there's a question. And how would you include Zoom's AI in any of these tool categories? That was the middle category because Zoom is actually taking the content and then is making the summary and then delivering the synthesis of the code with you or the transcription. So this was the middle category. So if I go back to the initial slides, we are in the yellow one. Zoom is analyzing and then synthesizing the content that is being recorded, right? Yeah, you're welcome, Mark. Thank you for the question. So scientific, research. So it's quite interesting because when I started my coaching career, from the very beginning, already in 2017, I had, co-written and published an initial paper in education in the Australian Education Leader. So because I was working with Australian coaches at that time in education, and so there is already, some papers, with me back in 2017. But in 2020, this is when really I would say the real coaching research emerged because in 2020 we had Grassman and Shermely writing and proposing the first AI coaching definition that helps us to understand that AI coaching can be defined as a machine's ability to help a person define and attain her goal, but also to mobilize resources to attain this goal. And I think in this definition is quite interesting because we see coaching, right? We know that a coach helps a person to define the goal and then to mobilize the resources and to achieve the goal, right? So it's quite close to what we're doing as coaches. And there is also Nikki Blanche in 2024 that proposed a second definition that is a machine's ability to emulate a coach knowledge, which means replicating and reproducing the knowledge of a coach, right? So it's quite interesting to see that already today, we already start to benefit from AI coaching definitions, but we benefit from more because there are more research. And so I'm going to show you a couple of slides that are quite interesting. So Terre Blanche and colleagues actually did a very interesting research back in 2022. They have been comparing an AI coaching agent that was built to help to help students define and attain goals on a 6-week programs. And they've been comparing this AI coaching agent with a human coach. And so what it shows is that if we look here at the black, at the dotted line, and then like the bar lines in black, then it means that the AI coach was able to do the same outcome and the same job, as a human coach. So it's quite thought-provoking, right, to say that, but the research actually shows that, and it's quite important to say that this is very contextualized. So this was done in an academic setting with postgraduates, with undergraduate students in South Africa. So it means that yes, the outcomes is there, and this informs us about what AI can do today. I think for us coaches is something quite important. It doesn't necessarily mean that we can take the same AI coaching and we can, put this into the enterprise or for other contexts, right? But it's still, first step. And then there's a second research that was actually published last year, 2025, from Passmore and colleagues. And actually, what they did a bit of the same thing. They created, with coaching experts, they created an AI coaching agent for goal attainment, also, using the core competencies from ICF. And they had human coaching experts evaluate the AI coaching agents. And so what they found out is that the AI coaching agents actually was rated between ACC and PCC level, and even more PCC than ACC, as we can see in the slides. So this means that, yes, actually, from the first slide that I showed you to this one, we understand that AI, yeah, Faria, it's like, I understand your reaction. It means that AI is actually capable to match some of the core ICF competencies and to deliver, a good quality of, let's say, self-coaching or coaching knowledge, transfer, right, with people. But no worries, we move to interesting sides, right? It doesn't mean that coaching is ending. It's actually the opposite. No worries. So here in this research, in this slide, there were two research. On the left side, so here this is a research from colleagues, and on the right side, this is a research that I've been doing myself with a colleague from South Africa. Basically, with these two research, the conclusion is that AI coaching is very different. What we researchers and experts in the domain are seeing when we do research, the conclusion is a bit of the same. Yes, AI can emulate coaching and will actually help scale access to coaching, so enable more people to access coaching knowledge, provide a good structure for people to frame the goal and to attain the goal because it is useful. Also support early career audiences or underserved groups. So it means we can really democratize the coaching knowledge to more people. But AI, of course, doesn't provide the depth and the warmth of the human beings, right? Of the human coaches. So AI coaching is quite different. And when we look at my research on the right side, what are the graphs saying? I have been looking at AI coaching conversations with 10 different middle level leaders in organizations, and I have been looking at 10 human coaching conversations with 10 different managers as well. And so what we see here is that the AI coaching agents is quite good at stabilizing, taking people to stable emotional states. This is the tracking of the effects of the emotion in the conversation. And so we can see that an AI coaching agent is quite capable of taking people to stable enough affective states so that they become able to do problem solving or solution creation and things like that, right? But when we look at the human coaches in this specific research, what we are seeing is quite different. The human coaches are using the affect and are using the emotions differently. It could be good in some cases. It could be not that good in some cases, because what we see in the graph is that here the group of human coaches that were part of the study, they actually sometimes they left their coachees go back in the negative emotion towards the end of the conversations and potentially not leaving the clients resourceful as maybe I would be doing as a coach myself or you would be doing. So here in these slides, sorry, we're not saying that AI is better or it's less good than human coaching. It's just actually raising new questions. AI coaching is quite different. AI coaching agents can provide value, and it actually forces us, the coaches and the coaching practice, to stay reflexive, to supervise ourselves, and to push ourselves to a better competencies.
Okay,
So
so I have a question here
go
first.
ahead. Yeah.
And also there's a question in the chat. So, but before that, so here when you say AI coaching, here is AI coaching is coaching through text or coaching through through voice.
Yeah. So here, here we are mostly on the AI coaching through texting, but we can also, speak to the solution. So I think that here, both solutions. So they were mostly using on the writing chats, but they were also equipped, with with some voice options. But the voice wasn't analyzed. So here, the data from this research, the data was the written text, from the coachee on the AI side. So it's written content, right? So chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's a chat one. So there's a question from Amal. She's saying, how do you measure the stability of the emotional state?
Yeah. So how did you measure? So here, for instance, we had access to the transcripts of the conversations, and so we were able to read, all the conversations between, on one side, the human coach and the human coachee, and the AI coach, and then the coachee, the person using the AI coach. So we were able to do like a sentiment analysis, by looking at the transcript of the conversation. So of course, here, for instance, we could object, okay, potentially the measurements of the emotion is not the same as if we were, for instance, taking a physiological data, or if we were, hearing the voice. But actually, when we look at the data, like the text, we can do some good sentiment analysis, because we can see, for instance, when the person says, oh yes, I'm happy about that, or I feel this kind of emotion, then we can easily label the data, to say, it's positive or it's negative, right? So it's quite it's quite an interesting research for this reason. So for the question on ethics, privacy, I think I will keep this for the next slides that are specifically to for ethics, if you don't mind. And I will look at other questions. So were the human coaches in your study particular level of experience? Yeah, I think this is a good question as well. So they were like, mid to advanced. They had between 5 and 10 years of experience, right, for the coaches. So they were not novice. They had a minimum of 5, a maximum of 10 years of experience. So they had, some training. Actually, they were part of a coaching association in Africa. Um, and yeah, so it's quite interesting, right? And basically from research, we can understand also these kind of things. So here, the questions that emerge from this research is, okay, how do we train human coaches? How do we supervise? And how do we make sure that coaches, for instance, use the coaching principles in the right way? But AI coaching is different. A question from Sami. At AI, empathy and compassion are never sought after. Well, actually, so that we come. Thank you, Sami, for your question. I will give you an interesting insight with the next slide. And I will take also Claudia's question before I move on. It will be interesting to redo this study using voice and see if the results are different. Yes, Claudia, thank you very much. This is actually a very good comment. And this is how research, moves forward. We do a type of research, we have a type of conclusion. Of course, there are some limits in any kind of research. And then the next researchers are going to add some levels to that, right? Um, okay, so now I would take your question, Mohammed, on regulation, and the other question on ethics. I just wait a few more slides because I have a few slides on ethics. So here, for instance, with Sami, you asked the question about empathy and compassion. That's quite interesting because in this research that I've been doing, which is a peer-reviewed article, what this research says is that coaching tools can augment people's competencies. And how do they augment, how do they enhance the competencies of a human being? So when the coaching tools are used, in real world situations, so for instance, to manage emotions, to address communication and relation issues, or to organize work, when the performance of the tool is at a good enough level, when the algorithms like GenAI today can understand the language, when the user experience is right, when people have prior information on the tools and the limits of the tool, so when they can make sense of what is the tool, why and how can I use it, then there is a development that can occur on specific capabilities. So here, coming back to Sami's question, in this research that I've been doing with 144 people, I've been taking the feedback of 144 people having used AI coaching agents. And so these people, even though AI does not have the human empathy, when the AI coaching agent is set in the right way by a coaching expert, it can actually enhance and augment the empathy of a human being towards other people. So, for instance, here to give a concrete example, many of the research participants were actually on the use case of communication, relations, or managing emotions. And their feedback was that when they worked with the AI coaching agents, they were able to communicate specific things differently to other people, and that they were also witnessing other people reacting in a different way and responding to them a different way. So their feedback and their experience with the AI coaching agents was that they were able to deal with and address a specific, emotional and communication issues that were improving the empathy. So we don't need AI to have empathy to actually have an impact on the human empathy, which is quite interesting. And other capabilities were developed, for instance, confidence, work organization, uh, priority setting, and these kind of things, right? So it's quite interesting to understand that AI coaching tools can improve, enhance, and even augment human competencies. And we know this in research already before my research for specific to AI coaching. Before that research, in the literature, we already had the concept of human augmentation, and human augmentation occurs when the technology adapts to the human needs. We know that it triggers specific cognitive and emotional mechanisms that augment people's competencies. All right, so let's see some questions here. So since it's a return to return comparison, would it be fair to say that it might not be a concrete comparison yet, as we're missing out on the voice, body language, and facial expression? Yeah, I mean, Needy, I think your comment is quite valid. At that time, the research was published in 2024, so it was data from, 2020, 2023, 2024. So we were at the very beginning, right, of the research. So it's already just under interesting. Actually, sometimes coaches can also coach on WhatsApp, or they can coach on messaging, right? There is this type of coaching. So to your comment, I would say, well, it is valid, it is valuable, it is interesting, because, for instance, for coaches that are working on text messages, it can actually give them very good insights, and we can already understand, for instance, by looking at the conversation. Actually, the human coaching conversations were recorded from a real human coaching conversation. So when we do the comparison, it's quite interesting to see, what people can achieve with an AI coaching agents, even though there's not voice, compared to what people are achieving with human coaches, right? So this comparison is actually giving insights that produce interesting and important questions for the coaching practice, even though we can always improve the way the sentiment and the emotion were measured. I completely agree with that. It makes me wonder, in what situation are AR and human coaching is more effective? Yeah, that's with research, basically we are starting to witness that, for instance, when people, so here, for instance, right, there are some kind of interesting insight from these slides. When some people need to manage emotions, we know from research that people have, for instance, an easier time to open up and speak with an AI agents, because many people are afraid of sharing their weaknesses with a human being. So an AI coaching agent here can actually help people to express emotions and to start getting into the reflection process, put names on the emotions, reflect, reframe. So I would say, for a first level of work, for an initial work that is about framing things, analyzing the situation, expressing our emotions, and starting to put words, on the situations, AI coaching is very useful. But when we need to go into deeper human things, and then this is where the human coaches can actually do the difference, because they have real life experience, right?
And I think your next slide will also answer this question in more details. Yes, this
Yeah,
one.
actually, so this is a very big slide. Sorry for that, but it's quite simple. There are numbers. Number one is just saying that the AI coaching agent is reproducing a coaching conversation. How do you feel? Some questions about the present situation, the desired outcome. It's basically following let's say, the usual coaching process that most of the coaches would have, for a few conversations. Number two and number three are actually showing that when an AI agent is automating the conversation process, there are very similar regulation mechanisms that are being triggered at the human level. So the people using an AI coach actually starts regulating their cognition. They're actually reordering the topics that are most important for them to deal with in the situation. And they're also regulating their affective representation of the situation. And they are, in 80% or 90% of the case, moving toward a positive affective of the situation. So it means, like I was showing in the previous slide, they're getting to like a more stable, let's say, an affective state that enables them to switch potentially to more performance or to more competence, right? And the last level, number four, means that, for instance, when an AI coach is being produced, for managers or mid-level leaders, it can actually increase the collective awareness and enable leaders and managers to become more aware and to reflect about the impact they have on the collective level, which is quite interesting. So when working with an AI coaching agents and repeating the process over time, what number 5 says is that people can actually enhance their competence in real work situations. So this is a theoretical model that I built during my PhD thesis out of real AI coaching conversations with real mid-level managers in organizations. Okay, is it the same if you have trained agents on your own coaching style or niche based on your work and language of coaching? Yeah, so that's so here when I was, what I've been doing in this research, I've been, the AI coaching agents that I created was actually then using some of the most like universal and known frameworks in the research, and I have been this AI coach was reviewed by coaching experts and also by the companies, the organizations before. So it means, it was, well accepted and in the framework of like a, let's say, a normal expected coaching. But you could change that if you were training an AI coaching agents, on your own, right? So we can come to this a bit later. Which AI agents was used for the coaching in the study? Do AI agents have different personality based on with which AI program they were created? So they didn't have a specific personality, but they were actually trained or set to actually go through, the very specific, steps of a coaching conversation and only asking questions and not delivering, specific insight or knowledge as an advisory mode. So it was trained to do this kind of job. Yeah, definitely it was trained, on specific coaching criteria. And here, so it's a paper that is just about to be published, my second paper. And so here's quite interesting because it says that when AI coaching conversations are analyzed, we can understand different types of relational orientation. So we can understand that some of the leaders and managers are more instrumental. So it means that as they speak with other people, they socialize with them to actually fix some of their personal issues, and they actually build a relationship with the AI coach that is more viewed as a tool system to control, for control. But some of these mid-level leaders and managers who use the AI coach, they actually have an empowering orientations to others. So it means that when these leaders interact with other people in organization, they move towards others, they engage with others as partners in the reflection and action. And these type of managers and leaders are actually viewing the AI coach as a reflective companion. And so this means that as AI, in AI coaching conversation, there are different, let's say, orientations that can be detected. And so as AI can identify this orientation, AI can give it back to the coachee in the conversation and then enhance the reflectivity of the leaders in situation. So this is quite interesting. So we can think that AI will actually push, people to more reflexivity and more self-awareness. Okay, this is the last slide of research. Then basically that's kind of a very simple summary of the research. But the perception of mid-level leaders when using AI coaching is that they can gain time because some people can have an insight in a 10 to 15 minute AI coaching conversation. They can do a problem solving, they can increase confidence, they can get an outcome in 10 to 15 minutes when it's delivered in the right way. They actually talk about neutrality. I know neutrality can be debated. That's not the case here, but this is just the feedback from the person. We can actually read what one of the user participants was saying. She was valuing that there was no emotional experience in the AI coaching, neutrality, not being bothered by the other one, right? And this is quite important to acknowledge and to understand. Some people actually value the fact that there is no human being because they need to share something that they are not comfortable with. So it means that they see the AI coaching as a neutral space where they feel they can share. And this is kind of a great value, right? So AI coaching can also help people, can help organization systematize proven methods. It doesn't mean standardizing, but systematizing, so bringing proven method and coaching knowledge to more people and scale access to coaching in organizations, right? So that's quite interesting. Yeah, Needy, you would be curious to know where the use of AI coaching higher than human coaching in terms of topics, geographies, demographics. This is a very good question. I don't have the data. I don't have the data. I could be saying, well, for instance, United States is kind of a very innovative countries and they love to use, technical tools and they like to buy products. So we could imagine that. In Europe, we have a strong regulations that sometimes can be a barrier. But in Asia, they also use, they are on the phones and they use tools and they use avatars, they use many things, right? They are big, digital consumers. But I don't have stats, I don't have data, so I cannot bring you a concrete response to that. Sorry. And then another question from Nidhi. It would be great to observe if AI brings in lesser or more bias compared to humans. Yes, this is one of the limits that were written in my PhD thesis, and definitely there can be some bias. Actually, we speak about this now. These are three basic principles for ethics. Ethics is quite simple to understand. First of all, is transparency, getting consent from people, and understanding what's behind. So if you want to use AI, and if you want as a coach to have a good, let's say ethical behavior or ethical approach, the first thing is to understand. And understand means that you go, for instance, on the website of an AI coaching provider, like me, for instance, because I'm a provider as well. You go, you check the websites, which information are provided. You can also go on the website, of ICF websites. You can check the ICF standards. I will provide you the link in the next slides. And so you can inform yourself. And using the use cases, for instance, that I provided you with at the very beginning of this conversation, you can also ask yourself a question about when, how, where, when do I want to use an AI coach? So this first level of, questioning and research, I would say, is a first layer. And then what is the most important for ethics is to be transparent. This is also how you can build the trust with your clients. Just explain to clients that you would like to use an AI tool, how you're going to use it, how the data is addressed, and ask for the consent. And if you do that, you actually educate the other person, and then the person has the right to say yes or no, to ask questions. And so you can build trust, and then you can have a good ethical practice. And of course, like a last and third basic principle is staying aware, staying conscious, and staying in reflection. Mind how you manage the data and confidentially. That's quite important. And then ask yourself about the bias. We were just speaking about bias. There's an interesting research reference that I could be sending you if you want, that explains the type of bias that exists in the data, with the method for processing data, or as a cultural and societal bias. We all have bias. There are bias everywhere. They are not all bad bias, but some bias can actually have a big impact on AI. So it's good to ask ourselves the question. Alia is asking a question. How culturally aware is the research? Was it done on a specific demographic? You mean, yeah, my research. So with my research, actually, I've been working with organizations from the US, from Europe, and from Africa as well. So I've been mixing contexts and mixing cultures, which is quite interesting because the research that I'm providing back to you is actually coming from different contexts. So it means that we are moving to a good, generalization possibility. But I haven't done the research, for instance, with Asia. And for some contexts or for niche contexts, there could potentially be, a need for readaptation for the culture. But I don't have the data on this, but like in any things, I think that we can readapt for culture. So this is something that the research, should look at as well. So in Europe, for instance, we have the EU AI Act that actually, regulate and pushes people to really understand, educate themselves about AI, which is also what we are doing now in a sense, thanks to this ICF chapter. And then, like I was talking about, they are the AI coaching standard from ICF. You can screenshot this slide. You can actually take the address, the email, the URL that is down the bottom. So here, if you go on the website, of ICF, you can find these tools. You have the full documentation with all the different standards on a PDF document, and then you have an Excel document that we created with my co-working group and the ICF Global AI Coaching Standard Group. And this Excel document is actually a self-scoring tool. It's quite useful to ask yourself the right question if you want to evaluate an AI coaching tool. Finally, about ethics, there is the AI Coaching Coalition that I've been mentioning earlier that I'm part of. I'm part of the European group. And so there is a group in each of the continents. And this AI Coaching Coalition is actually reporting to ICF, EMCC, and AC. And so the goal is to do multiple types of work, such as, for instance, creating a glossary to inform coaches and the coaching stakeholders of, what are the terms, what is the language to use in coaching, in AI coaching. And so there are multiple projects that are going to be developed with this coalition to help the practice and to help coaches understand, how to handle AI coaching for the practice. Yeah, and then basically we have potentially another 5 minutes where I can just give you an example, of a platform, just to illustrate what I've been saying, especially in ethics. So if we take 5 minutes there, then I think we can have 10 minutes full of questions and answers. So here there's no question of business. I just want to use, obviously I'm biased, the platform that I created following my PhD. It's called Magif.ai, Magify. And it's quite interesting to see, for instance, that with an AI coaching platform that is specific to coaching, not only you can create AI coaching agents with your knowledge, with your coaching approach. For instance, here on this platform, we provide expert or coaches like me. We provide a specific assistance that we can tell everything to these assistants, and the assistant is going to help the coach to build the AI agents. So it means that we get help on creating the right type of prompt. We can use media, we can put pictures, videos, we can create our own approach. And so we have an assistant that is helping us to do the work. So it means that we can be more reflexive. We can get into the conversation with the assistants. We can transfer our knowledge. We can reflect, and we can supervise the AI agents doing the work for us and creating an AI agent. So in this platform, for instance, the way I'm working, the way I'm creating this AI platform is to make sure that coaches do not spend too much money or too much time in many different trainings, because the goal is not to be an expert in AI. Things are changing pretty fast. Every 3 months, every 6 months, there's something new. But with the good AI coaching platform, we can actually create AI agents in a very easy, fast way and with good quality. And then to build compliant AI agents and ethical AI agents, these platforms actually enable us, the coaches, but also our clients, the coachees, to have privacy options. So it means that as a coach, I can choose to make everything anonymized, or I can also ask and let my coachee choose to anonymize specific data. And so everything is integrated into the tool. This, for instance, is not possible. We don't see that in ChatGPT or in Claude, right? So here, for instance, using a specific AI coaching platform like this one is already one other and two other layers of ethics, for instance, right? So that's quite interesting to understand the value that specific AI coaching platforms can bring. We can do the pre-testing of agents. So it means that once we have created AI agents, we can launch tests. And so the test can inform us how our AI agents are behaving, for instance, for the audience, that we want to use it for. So it means that we can have the data, we can have the insights before we even commercialize our approach or use it with real people, which is quite important. And then finally, this is something that I'm working on from research as well. I'm writing a white paper on AI agents compliance. And so here, specific AI coaching platforms can also help us, the coaches, to build AI agents in compliance with specific frameworks. And then, so here it's written certifications, but it's more of an audit. So the AI coaching platform can just inform me as a coach whether or not and how my AI agent is complying with a specific framework. So if I'm an ICF coach, I can put the ICF framework into that. But if I'm an EMCC or AC coach, or if I work in a specific industry for a specific company, I can use a specific type of framework, and the platform is going to audit my AI coaching agents and then give me the reporting like this one, for instance, and tell me, okay, your agent is only 67% compliant, and then we tell me exactly where my agents needs improvements and where it's compliant. So that's basically the new level of research and the new level of developments that experts like me are doing. And of course, we're using research, to build these kind of frameworks. Yeah, we have 10 minutes for questions. So I will go into the chats, just look if I have new questions, but then feel free to raise hands, to take the microphone, or to ask new questions into the chat if you want.
Yeah, so actually we have like 7 minutes or so for questions. So maybe a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sammy is raising his hand. Go ahead, Sammy.
Yeah, Sami.
Thank you, Oliveri. I'm very actually happy and pleased with your agent because now we know that there is a shortage of coaches, especially when it comes to well-being and mental health promotion. No doubt that there is a global shortages for mental health worker, and definitely having your AI agent being created within ICF ethical framework, I have more confidence in it than any other products available. I wish you all the best, and definitely it will become more mature with more um, utilization of the agent. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Sami. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we
Alia?
have Alia. Yes,
Yeah.
Alia, go ahead.
Yes, hi. A very interesting topic, and I was thinking of that actually. So if I want to create an agent for me, like speaks my language or insert some data from my work and my, like a book or the way my experience or whatever, is that done like through one of your
For instance,
products? Yeah, could it be done with your do you work one-on-one with people regarding this, or I can do that on my own, like in any platform that
both.
creates agents?
Both. So you can do that on your own in full autonomy on the platform, for instance, because there are guided processes and there's an AI that helps you do that. So you can be autonomous, or you can call some experts. You can call me. I'm happy to connect and give insights and help you think. So that's you to choose.
Okay.
So basically, it's open for anyone to do it in any place.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
have the talent and the time and the expertise, and maybe get a support from an expert.
And quite
Okay.
interesting, even if you don't have the AI talent, the way we build platform is actually to help you do that. Because like I said, you're a coach. You do not need to be an AI expert. So we actually build the in-product training and support and assistancy so that, even if you don't know anything about AI and technology, you can actually build AI coaching agents if you see the use case and if you would like to integrate this into your practice. That's the value.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more question. If anyone needs any more questions.
So
Okay,
Reid,
and I'm seeing many people are happy here. And it's quite impressive and also informative.
I'm seeing good comment. Thank you very much. Well, I'm happy. It means that it was insightful and useful for people. So which is the goal. I'm just seeing one question from Reid Pritchett.
Yes.
Are there organizations or sectors where you have seen a mixed human and AI systems deployed? Are there also organizations or sectors you see where there is need for these kinds of coaching system deployed? Yes. Well, basically a bit everywhere. We interact with many different sectors. It really depends about, I would say, the coaching readiness or the innovation mindset, or sometimes regulations as well, because some industries. But saying that, I work with some governmental agencies as well, so they are it's getting pretty much everywhere. So and for any kind of use cases, sometimes it's just AI, sometimes it's a hybrid model with human coaches inside. Yeah, there's a big variety emerging in different sectors. So you are the goal here is to democratize coaching and to make sure coaching can empower people. But the way I see that is to enable coaches to do the work, right? So the kind of platform I'm working on is to enable coaches to create AI agents with their knowledge, so that they can be enough variety of coaching knowledge that is shared to the world, right? So we're all doing this together, basically.
Perfect. So it's quite an impressive, and a very informative session, Olivier. And if I may share the sentiments of other people here, so it's scientific based. It's also ethically documented. It's evidence. There's evidence, and also there's real case scenarios. So you had it all today. You gave us all. So yeah. So
Thank you.
I really thank you so much for your efforts today and for everything that you've shared. And I also would like to share something with the audience. Please let us know your opinion. Your opinion matters. If you want to see more of this, like these sessions, if you want to share what went well for you and anything you need, just scan this code. And there's also the link in the chat box where you can use and share your opinion. And I will leave this like for 20 seconds more before sharing what's coming next with the ICF. Saudi chapter events. Okay. And then coming next is something in English as well, another session in English, which is the coach as a catalyst, unlocking potential in uncertain times, which many of us has been going through lately. And this is gonna be with Zina Ghusso. Like it's in 30 minutes, like an hour and a half from now. An hour and a half from now. So please do register if you wish to attend. And we're looking forward to seeing you all very, very soon, probably like in the next hour and a half. And I would like to extend, my appreciation to Olivier again. Thank you so much
Thank you very much
for
for having
everything you
me.
shared today.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, our audience. It has been pleasure having you today. It's your company is such a great thing, and looking forward to seeing you like in an hour and a half from now.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
You're most welcome. Au revoir. À tout à l'heure. Is this right?
Yeah, au revoir à tout à l'heure. Very good, perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, take care. Take care, Rasha. Thank you very much.
Take care, Olivier, and take care, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you in an hour and a half. Wish you all the best and have a very, very nice Friday.